Today is Monday, November 25th, and this is the ADM Investor Services Weekly Market Kickoff. Please note that the views and opinions expressed here today are solely those of our guests and should not be construed as the views or opinions of ADM Investor Services or Archer Daniels Midland Company. Today's guests are Steve Freed, Vice President of Grain Research at ADM Investor Services, and Alan Bush, ADMIS Senior Financial Economist. Steve, let's start with the grain markets this morning. Last week, soybean futures dropped with funds liquidating their final net long positions. What is next for the soybean market?
I think it's lower. I think that the market is getting tired of waiting for news of a positive signing of a trade deal. Last week, the Chinese, I think, felt that there might have been a step back because they came in and bought a large quantity of Brazil soybeans. We thought we had kind of a window in which we were going to be the net seller. I also think that market's kind of looking ahead. A lot of the information in 2020 is bearish. Big South American crops, record U.S. soybean crop potential, and I think the market is overvalued. Now, by being short, you run the risk that if a deal pops up and they sign it, the market's going to rally. But I think long-term, the price of soybeans go lower.
Corn futures seem to be making a bottom in futures. Will this last, and where is the buying coming from?
It's kind of a seasonal tendency. We've always had that the bulls eat on Thanksgiving, the bears eat on Christmas, and so there's a little bit of short covering. The funds are short. I think the harvest is being delayed. We've got two storms that are going to be moving across the Midwest this week, and we still have 15% of the corn crop sitting out in the field. On Friday, we had a farmer visiting us from North Dakota. He still has a lot of corn in the field, and he doesn't look like he's going to be harvesting until January.
See, wheat futures have been rallying. What's going on in this market, and do you feel like this trend will continue?
I think it could. We're into the delivery period for the December wheat Chicago futures, and there's no receipts available. So if I'm short December wheat, I'm in trouble. I think that there's not a good way to get out of that short position. I also think that there's some groups that came out and said that next year's hard red winter wheat crop here in the U.S. is going to be lower than this year, which gives us some support in the Kansas City wheat. And the funds have decided to move their record short Kansas City futures to Minneapolis because the Minneapolis crop is a really poor quality crop with no demand for it. And so I think that you're going to see Kansas City wheat gain on corn. You're going to see Chicago wheat still a high premium to Kansas City, and you're going to see Minnesota lose to both Chicago and Kansas City.
Finally, Steve, the soy oil has been gaining on the soybean meal market. Can you shed some light on this trade?
It's been going on for a while. I think initially it started with the fact that China has been reducing their soybean crush because of the Asian swine fever. And because of that, they are importing a record amount of veg oil. We also note that we're seeing a downtrend in Malaysian palm oil production because some of the trees are aging and they've had some adverse weather conditions. And so I think that the trend of oil gaining on meal will continue until we see a little bit better either Malaysian palm oil supply or until we stop seeing China as a record importer of vegetable oil.
Alan, let's look at the financials. Federal Reserve Chairman Powell will speak at 6 p.m. this evening. What will he likely say about the economy?
Well, first of all, I don't think he'll have much more to offer than what he said at his recent congressional testimony. He'll probably talk about the upbeat consumer as far as the situation there. Retail sales seems to be relatively good. He may hint that there may not be any type of change in policy between now and the end of the year. Of course, there is only one policy meeting. That'll be at the December meeting. So overall, I think his comments will be upbeat and probably not that market moving.
Sometimes we like to look at seasonal trading. What is the seasonal tendency for stock index futures for the week of Thanksgiving?
Okay, well, this week historically has been an up week. Since World War II, there has been a strong seasonal tendency for the stock market and stock index futures to advance this week. And I think this week will be no exception. I'm looking for higher prices. In fact, there's good gains today, so further gains appear very likely.
So, Alan, we know you've been biased to the long side of the stock market for a long time. and your expectations are for that to continue. In addition to these higher expectations for the stock indexes, what other markets do you like from the long side?
Well, first of all, here's something that I would avoid. The currencies, I don't think there's much to do there. The interest rate futures market, same story. But I think there is quite a bit of potential in the long side of the industrial commodities, if I am right in that the global economy is stabilizing. So that would mean copper will probably trend higher, as it has. Crude oil is looking good, and the lumber market actually has put in a good performance. So those markets, I think, will perform very well going forward.
Thank you both. Remember, the views and opinions expressed today on this video are solely those of our guests and should not be construed as the views or opinions of ADM Investor Services or Archer Daniels Midland Company. If you'd like more information about our brokerage services, would like to speak to one of our experts about managing your risks, or would like to open a trading account, please visit www.admis.com.